Welcome to another edition of Dailyish devotionals with Pastor Brian. I am he is me. I have found that it is refreshing for me to do these too. I know it might be hard to believe, but sometimes as a pastor, I find it hard to do a daily devotional or find time. May think I'm too busy, kind of like if that's your job, you don't really want to come home and do that job again. Healing's vitally important that you do. So by doing these 5 days a week, I found it kind of refreshes me too. So I hope you get some enjoyment out of them and maybe learn something in my goofy, laid back style. Hopefully you can take something from it. At least I'm thinking maybe as we continue on to keep doing these. I don't know, maybe not 5 days a week when things get back to normal, but maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Like I said before, you can't overwork a pastor. I'm used to working 1 day a week, maybe another half day in preparation. So doing 3 days a week could be tough. Anyway, today is tax day. Hopefully that doesn't come too much of a surprise, even though I think we've got some kind of extensions if we need to. And I like this cartoon. Remember, Dad, those grades are after taxes. I found that to be funny. Now, for a few of you, you will understand this background image. Even for a more select and enlightened few, you will like this background image. This is the bridge of the USS Enterprise, NCC 1701, the original. Well, I guess now they've had a new series that was Scott Bakula, but this is the first TV series that aired in the late 60s, and this is their bridge. And I thought, I've been trying to get my boys into this show because Star Trek, even more than the Hallmark Channel or any feel-good movie, portrays the best of humanity, right? Especially the later series, The Next Generation, a few following. Voyager, Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise. If I haven't watched the ones on CBS that have come out recently, Picard and Discovery. And yeah, I'm a nerd, I know them all. I have seen every episode of every one, except for the new CBS ones, and I'm working my way through the Scott Bakula Enterprise ones, and I'm trying to get my kids to like them too. Alex likes the opening theme song. Isaac doesn't think much of it. Tracy immediately will leave the room. My lunch break during the day we'll spend eating and watching a show, and most of the boys just laugh at it, and Tracy, like I said, blows it off. But even though Star Trek is the greatest of humanity, portrays us, man, always trying to work it out with cooperation, with peace and negotiation first instead of fighting, and talks about inclusivity and all this stuff. I just can't get him to, so maybe. But as we go on, let's engage, make it so. Remember, I'm a pastor, I'm not a comedian, and I don't know how many more Star Trek references we'll have during this cast. But if you're tired of them, you might want to beam yourself on out of here. Today's chapter is working without leaving home, and I thought that was appropriate since a lot of us are doing that now. He called it telecommuting. I think this book was made in 1996 when it was first came out, so the internet probably wasn't around too much then. Yeah, 96 was the first time. So he thought his opening story is about working from home, and he called it telecommuting. All you needed was your phone. And I thought that was kind of funny, antiquated. Now we have the internet, and you really can do most anything from your house. But he goes on to say that prayer is kind of the first. Prayer is God's powerful version of telecommuting, he says it, or working from home. The story comes from Exodus 17, and the Israelites are involved in a battle against the Amalekites. And as long as Moses holds his hands up, they're winning. As soon as Moses puts his hands down, the Israelites lose, or are losing. And it goes on to say that eventually Joshua defeats them, so Moses was able to hold his hands up. Some people came along and helped him hold his hands up. And then Moses says, he built an altar and called it, "The Lord is my banner." For the hands were lifted up to the throne of God. See, Moses was praying when he's lifting his hands to God. Now, an aside that I always say, and I always give my confirmation kids this when we talk about stories from the Old Testament. I use the creation story as an example. And I say this, I said, could it have happened in the 6 24-hour periods exactly described in Genesis? You bet it could. We don't know for sure. Could it be over millions or billions of years? You bet it could. And that argument, if you will, or that discussion can be fruitful, can be helpful, but it doesn't have to be one or the other, right? I always say, look at the meaning of the story. What are they telling you in creation? In the creation story, it's saying God made us all. We were made in God's image. We're to take care of the earth and the animals. That's what the story is telling us. It's not interested in being a science book and exactly how it made. Could it have been exactly like it's written? Yes, it could. Could it have been with some more science thrown in as what we understand today? You bet. But the important part is what's it teaching us. Same as this story here. We can apply it too. Could it literally be that Moses had to have his hands physically in the air for the Israelites to win? So much so that people came along to help hold his hands up? Sure, could have been. Could it just be when the story was written, years afterwards, people were trying to show the power that Moses had and put him in a better light, or maybe show us the power of prayer? Yeah, could be that too. Either way. But what's the story telling us? The story is showing us the importance of prayer. When Moses had his hands up, he was praying for the people, and they were winning. When he got too tired to do it, some people came along and helped him, maybe prayed with him, showing us what the power of prayer can be. Look, they won that victory then. That's what it's showing us. And that shows us what prayer can do. Right? We've all witnessed miracles of prayer. We've also witnessed when sometimes miracles doesn't happen. But like I always tell my kids, right? You never know until you ask. You think about how many blessings God has held back because we simply didn't ask for them. Maybe we weren't ready to receive them. All that is possible, right? You don't know until you ask. And then you can be ready for what God's answer might be. It might be no. Surely could be yes. But Ron says, going into God's throne room and bringing our fellow believers there in prayer is the greatest gift we can give them. We talk a lot in the church about ways you can help, and some people can't because they physically can't, or they don't think they're smart enough spiritually or emotionally to be a teacher or a preacher or help this way and that way, which God proves God uses everybody through all the stories in the Bible. God's great at using people that are unqualified to spread God's message. But we all can pray, right? No matter if we're pastors or whatever we might be, we all can pray. And this story of Moses holding his hands up in Exodus shows what the power of prayer is. It says prayer does not depend on health, gifts, charisma, wealth, influence, money. It is the most important ministry of all, something that we all can be involved in. When it comes to the work of God, you can do the most essential work without ever leaving your home. Telecommuting, as Ron would say it, using your communicator, right, to talk back and forth, or using your badge in some of the later Star Trek series. But prayer is a powerful weapon, and we need to use it more. Another part of the book said, prayer should bookend your day. Start it when you get up, close it as you leave. We all could take care of that. So a challenge for you, think of someone that maybe needs some prayer, and lift them up for 7 straight days in prayer. Right? You may not know what the needs are. The prayer could be as simple as, God, I am thinking of Joe Smith right now. I need you, and I would like for your presence to be with him, and for you to guide his hands and his hearts and his steps on his journey. Do that. Commit to doing that, praying for our world today even more. It's a powerful weapon, and it certainly can make a difference in their lives. I guarantee you, if you commit to praying for others, it will make a difference in their life. Until tomorrow, beam me up, Scotty.